What's up, everybody? Welcome to Waypoint's Media Club, a place where we look at TV shows, movies, video games, but not books because those are for virgins. Today, I am joined by the other half of my Overford Gamers, LeighErin Jess. And then you know him from twitch.tv/JimTasty, Brett Jamerson.
Hey, everybody.
Today, we are discussing Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 5, Truth. Now, Brett, I'm going to give you a moment to apologize.
For what?
You know for whom.
So mad.
Fontaine?
Fontaine. No, sir. Mr. John Walker apologist over here, refusing to concede.
So mad Brett wasn't on last week.
Yeah.
I know.
I watched that episode first thing in the morning and all day was like, I'm just going to roast Brett. And then we came on. I was like, is Brett not coming? Chris goes, no, he can't. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah, it was my mom's birthday, so.
Oh, fun.
Oh, that's fine then.
That's
Yeah.
like one of the few things I was like, I can't like miss that. But
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, are you going to apologize for John Walker or what, man? He's going down a dark path.
Hey, all I'll say is I'm gonna position two similar scenarios. Okay. The government had the outs for Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers had to go on the run, and now John Walker's doing the same thing.
Those aren't the same.
Damn it, my mic's... Oh, can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't love, like, Steve Rogers. Like, I'm not a huge Steve Rogers fan, but in his defense, he did not murder anyone when he had to go on the run.
He
He wouldn't sign
killed-
paperwork. He has killed people inadvertently.
Yes.
He threw the grenade on 3 people in the Winter Soldier.
Oh, I haven't watched Winter Soldier in a minute.
You watched it like last month.
I didn't finish it before
Oh.
we did the podcast.
Anyway.
I watched all the parts that make me mad.
Anyways.
It's listen, even LeighErin, who's like not the biggest Steve Rogers person, is like, it's not the same. Like, this was a guy who did not murder Battlestar and was just begging for mercy. Also, someone pointed out that, like, we never saw the damage. It's very, very possible that John Walker straight up decapitated him.
Literally it says, I wonder if the shield can decapitate someone even, like, just internally, because I can't imagine it can take your head clean off.
But it could,
But
like,
I'm curious if it
separate
can
your
cause...
spine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I'm curious.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, because that was my thing. It's like, I know with steel, if it gets slammed down hard enough, it can, like, cut off limbs.
Yeah.
Like elevators, which are not sharp, like, if it starts and has enough force, like, it can cut off a limb.
And we've seen
Yeah,
the
this
shield
is-
get wedged into things like trees and whatnot. It's like, there's a slight...
is-
And, like, cement.
Yeah.
So,
This is vibranium, so you'd think it'd be even more potent.
Yeah.
But yeah. Not apologizing. I'm doubling down.
Wow.
He kicked Falcon and Bucky's ass until they cheated, like Cap and Bucky cheated against Tony. So
hate that he said such bad things, but I agree with him in that fight. Bucky and Cap cheat against Tony.
Is it just because it's 2 against 1, it's inherently cheating?
No, the way they fight with Tony, I will say, I think it's cheating just because Bucky at one point is just like holding him down. And like if you're not giving the person the chance to fight back, it like rubs. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. That fight was just straight up awesome.
Yeah, and it was definitely a parallel to that one in Civil War. They use the same music. It is a Captain America that is involved in the fight. And something I've been meaning to say the past couple weeks is I really like how Sam can still find a way to use the wings in, like, closed corners, where he's just using it to manipulate himself.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. You're good.
I really like that fight. The only thing, this is the thing about this episode that was like shocking to me. It's like most of my notes of things I didn't like are like literal technical things. Like I feel like this fight could have been like a little brighter the way it was lit. Just because at a certain point I couldn't figure out who was who at one point and I couldn't tell who was winning.
Yeah.
And like because I didn't know if the person on top was Bucky or John. So literally, just like a little bit more light, I would have been nice. I like knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
And like I hate John Walker, but can we all just appreciate Wyatt Russell's performance?
Yeah, he like like part of my not adoration, just appreciation for this character is Wyatt Russell's performance. He's really just doing an excellent job. Even yeah, like we'll get to it later, but like that end scene, like you can just see that like crazed look. Even like at the beginning when he's literally running away from what happened, and like you can tell it's like that not PTSD. It's that haze of like after you have done something horrific, like you're
dissociation.
Yeah, he's just not in that head, like in a good headspace, like at all.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
he's very much coming down from like a high in the beginning.
Yeah.
And his performance is great, and let's all make sure that we're not actually going after the actor, but we just hate the character. For anybody who's watching this, don't go and like, verbally abuse Wyatt Russell.
Partly because, let me tell you, I'm pretty sure that Wyatt and his father could take anyone they wanted in a fight.
Yep.
I want to see Kurt Russell, Wyatt Russell, like father-son buddy cop, like superhero-esque movie now, just because I think it'd be really good. Well, if
you want Kurt Russell in a father-son superhero movie.
Well, that's what I mean. It's that he's so good in Guardians, and now his son is so good in this. I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
No, but he's doing children's movies to Marvel movies.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, that whole fight, because like I loved how John was winning in the beginning, and then once Bucky and Sam worked together, then they were able to like overcome John.
Yeah,
because the whole thing too with Bucky is like now that he's like, well, they touch on that he still feels like there's part of that Winter Soldier in him still, but he's fighting completely differently, and that's why I think initially there he was less effective than John was, just because John was like, he was trying to kill them. Like you saw him like trying to do the same shield stab on John, or on Bucky and Sam, and Bucky now is in the place where he's not fighting like Steve, but he's not trying to just brutalize like people. And then obviously Sam is not super powered, and he's not trying to kill people either. So
Sam's trying his best.
Yeah.
To quote Andy Cortez, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
To quote Andy Cortez, John Walker was a baby back bitch. It's just the scene where, and I'm sorry, this is about to get a little inappropriate, but the scene where he's on top of Bucky going, "I am Captain America." I'm like, you've done this to your wife. Like, you've been on top of your wife and done this.
And with a more cheerful tone, probably, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, you've been on, and I don't like that. I just got this image of the night they found out he was like chosen to become Cap, that was like,
they had the celebratory sex,
yeah, and like I was just like, ooh, I don't like this.
The other thing
I don't want this.
You can see the frustration that he's going through, where he's just like, there is no way, I think, that he's kind of come to the point where he's realizing there's nothing he could have ever done to have been the same person that Steve was in anyone's eyes. And I'm not saying this to like feel bad for him. Like, you murdered a person in cold blood on the street, but it's like you see him going through this frustration, which is like, there's something to be said about that.
My thing is just like, they're just asking you to be a soldier in a special costume.
Yeah.
Like, no one is asking you to be Steve Rogers. You decided you have to be Steve Rogers. Yeah. And it's like everybody, like the U.S. government and like everyone else would have been fine if you like ran around at high schools waving and like making jokes about the flags just starting to wave around you and were a good soldier. Nobody would have cared. We all would have been like, fine, live your dreams. But, when you're screaming at a Congress committee, "I am Captain America," as they're threatening you with JAG, is insane.
Yeah, military prison's no fucking joke.
No, being court-martialed is no joke. And, like, being dishonorably discharged or other than honorable discharge, I don't know which.
They said he was getting an other than dishonorable discharge, which I'm not a military
other than honorable.
I think he's like one step below, where like he's not going to jail, but you are not honorably discharged either.
Yeah, it's basically you've done something where they want to take away your benefits, but you haven't done something bad enough for, like, you didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
Or you didn't, like, desert. Which is still a crime. I don't know why I phrased it like that.
It's basically administrative leave without pay, more so than it is you're going to military prison.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that scene, though, because I do think...
I liked it.
I do think... I really believe that John did have some credence with what he was saying, that they built him that way. Now, obviously, the serum enhanced the core of his character, but... And this is, like, almost like a... I can't remember the term, but, like, when you're a soldier, like, and they mentioned it in the last episode, like, those medals that he got, he probably had to kill a whole bunch of people and did a bunch of bad shit. And the only difference between that and this was he's Captain America now, and it was in public, and everybody was reporting it. That's the only difference.
Well, it also wasn't an enemy. It wasn't an enemy combatant.
Well, it was. They're terrorists.
Yeah, he was a flag smasher, and he was a super soldier as well, right?
Yeah, like, the American government would not have given a shit if John Walker killed that guy if he hadn't been...
The optics were better, yeah.
Yeah, if he hadn't been in the suit, if he had been in the building, or if they had told him to do that and were ready for those videos to come out, it would have been a different conversation.
Yeah, but because it's also like, even though he's a terrorist within his own country, it's like, well, if you kill that citizen, is that an act of war? Like, the logistics are very different.
They're considered global terrorists because they're being called terrorists in America, too. That's why they sent John after him. I'm not defending John. I'm just saying that, like, John's not wrong when he says you built me. Up until him taking the super soldier serum. He did not have to do that. That was of his own volition.
I saw one post where they're just like, John is a sign of a failed system, in a way, of just, like, kind of what we're saying. Like, they build him up, they tell him do this and this and this, and now suddenly... he does it with the wrong optics, and nothing is going to change the fact that his whole life's ruined now. Yeah, not defending him, but it's like, you can look at the situation sympathetically and not him.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of surprised that they, like, were ready to wash their hands of him that quickly. Like,
you have to keep in mind, that's the first thing that he did publicly.
Those optics are bad, though. Like, you have to, that is 100% we have to publicly shame this man and take away his title, or this is going to be looked at as an act of war and we're about to be fucked.
Yeah, like, ignoring the fact that he, like, went on the run and they couldn't have done anything about it. Steve breaking what the government wanted to do in Civil War is like, okay, but before that, what did you do publicly? Oh, Age of Ultron. What did you do that? And before that, oh, the events of Avengers 1, and then all the events of the first Avengers. Like, he had been this guy for years. John Walker, it's like, this is your second week on the job, my dude.
I feel like John was right to a point, and then we passed that point, and John was like, nah, I'm going to buckle down. And it was like, oh,
yeah.
Honey. Oh, no. At one point, though, I was like, dude, stop yelling. They're telling you they're not court-martialing you. They can change their minds on that.
So, I looking at that scene, and it's like...
But he knows, like...
Go ahead.
Oh, that was like, he knows that... Like, he knew that he was just going down with the ship at that point, like... And I felt like in that moment... knowing he's juiced up, like what are they gonna do? Like, he could easily get out of whatever situation they put him in if they were like, all right, now you're out. Like, but so
do they know that he's juiced?
No, they don't.
Yeah, you're not getting picked up. Increase your gain.
Hello?
There you are.
He's the only one who knows he's juiced.
Fontaine knows.
And Fontaine knows, which how is...
And I think too, I think Sam knows, because...
There's no way they don't have an inkling. I thought the second he punched them, they were going to be like, oh God, he's juiced.
Who was there with him when he caught the pipe? It was either Bucky or Sam in the last episode.
Bucky.
Okay, so Bucky saw that, and then Sam in the fight at the beginning of this episode, like, it was all in the face, but you could tell like he was like, oh shit, like this isn't just a dude anymore. This is like a super soldier.
Yeah.
You didn't cut off in the beginning. Anyway, and the thing is, you can't blame his outburst in the hearing on the super soldier serum, because we saw him at the very beginning of episode 2 or 3 like spit in that one dude's face and just yell when he was trying to speak German. So it's like we've been saying this whole series, and what, you know, Stanley Tucci's been saying since 2011, where it's just like, it's just gonna amplify what's inside of you. And so he has a short temper. He has this need for fucking, I want to be respected. I got the special suit, mom. Like, and so now it's only worse.
I'm just saying, psych evals should have been more important in the choosing of Captain America.
Not your military record. Like, how about the psych evals?
Yeah, like, when you become a SEAL or a Marine, you have to undergo crazy psych evals, because so many Marines have ended up being serial killers. That you have to go under. Yeah, the man who shot JFK was a Marine. Like, you should have to go under a pretty crazy psych eval.
The entire CIA was one Marine.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I said the man who killed JFK, though, because I almost said John Wilkes Booth, even though that is not the man who killed JFK. Bucky Barnes is.
Yes. I want that to be canon so bad.
Oh my gosh.
I just feel like it fits.
It's
fun.
It doesn't not fit. But I mean, hey, John accepted his court hearing, and now he's just a really avid cosplayer, right? In that post-credit scene.
Yeah, like, so is that's just like a metal shield, right?
That's not vibranium.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, like it's a super soldier. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask you a question. So in the comics, I can't recall if U.S. Agent, when he gets like his own shield, like, is that vibranium or adamantium or whatever it's in the comics too, or is it?
So like, I was trying to look it up today too, just because I wanted to see what the inspiration they were giving of him putting his metals on the shield were, and I saw one picture where his shield looks very beat up, like in the comics. So it's possible that his is not a vibranium one in the comics. It's just a heavy metal, so it's not as good, but like to a regular person, it'll still wreck your shit.
Yeah.
Losing his shield is like a big deal in the comics. I think it's adamantium, but I haven't read anything with U.S. Agent in so long that I don't want to say it definitely is. I'm trying to find it.
The picture I saw definitely couldn't be, because the difference is that adamantium's indestructible and that vibranium is just absorber.
I mean, in the comics.
No, I know. I'm saying that because I've seen battle damaged shield of U.S. Agent in the comics, that can't be adamantium.
Yeah, he leaves his bullets. He leaves bullets in the shield. It's kind of freaky. Like, when the shield takes a bullet and it gets locked in the shield, he'll leave it on in certain canons.
Interesting.
It's very weird. Really quick.
Yeah.
Disney, you don't have to be subtle about things anymore. We know where they're going. We know Joaquin is becoming Falcon, and that's why you were like, hey, forgot these. Keep them.
Yeah.
I know that whatever he got from Wakanda is a fucking Captain America costume.
Do we think it's a costume or just the wings? Because there was a toy leak that showed what Sam's Captain America costume is going to look like. It's basically a 1-to-1 from the comics, just MCU'd. But I don't know if it's... You think it's a full costume?
I think so, right? Like...
Because Bucky doesn't know, or we never have confirmation that Bucky knows that Sam didn't take the wings back.
Oh, that's going to be real awkward if it's just a costume and no wings.
Or he's going to open the costume and find out Taurus made him new wings. Sorry that I keep interrupting you, Brett.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, I think it's the wings and the costume, because since this is the last episode next week, I think they're going to show him in that suit, maybe like in a battle. They're not going to show him like putting it on and like in that bedroom, like it'll.
So they're not going to show on the first try.
I think it's going to be this like full, like triumphant, like sweeping, like action scene where pops.
Oh yeah, he's gonna sweep into New York City wearing it, and it's gonna be fucking awesome.
Yeah. This episode, it was actually interestingly slow in terms of there were a lot of like deep character moments, not only between Isaiah Bradley and Sam, which was incredible. That scene, like, that's one of my favorite scenes now of any MCU property. And then Sam and Bucky in New Orleans was like you wouldn't expect that to be in episode 5. Like
it's a very interesting choice as a penultimate episode. But it's the lull. I think
didn't
really
feel out of place. It didn't feel out of place.
No.
Though. That's the thing.
My last thing on John Walker.
He ain't going away.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. But men, just as a rule, listen to your girlfriends, especially when you are mad. If we are outside of the situation and we're telling you, which I didn't realize. I wrote "girl dump him. Why are you comforting him?" And then went, "Oh, you're married. It's not as simple as I'm breaking up with you." I did not know. We were not given any information.
No, I didn't realize that till they said it.
She was married. But yeah, just if you're mad about something and your girlfriend is telling you, let's take a breath, let's go see Lamar's family before we make, any rash decisions, listen to them. We're usually right. Do you know who's not right? This weird woman who just gave us a blank business card.
Yeah, let's talk about
UV light or something.
Yeah, let's talk about Elaine from Seinfeld for a minute.
So I think this was the cameo that you were talking about, LeighErin, about the Black Widow cameo.
It is. I read it today.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. So because she just like walked up, and we're like, wait, who? What? But obviously, everyone knows like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Do you want to go into the comics canon, LeighErin? I'm sure you have a lot of stuff about her.
Hang on, let me pull it up.
Yeah. I saw one comment that was like, "Oh my God, he stormed out in the middle of a Capitol hearing, but he still got to meet the vice president."
Yes.
Veep.
Where is it? Because I never remember her full name.
Oh God, it's a mouthful.
Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
But call me Val. I'm pretty sure it's how she ended her introduction.
In my own head, I'm like, I'm gonna call you Fontaine.
Yeah. So she is insane in the comics. Her family and her have ties to the Levanthians, which is like they have like these pretty crazy ties to the Levanthians, specifically the sector that is undercover in the Italian anti-communism like movement. She's wild. And like she was a SHIELD agent for a while before like dipping.
Yeah, I was reading about her today because it looks like they've done a mixture of things with her character where it's like she was a SHIELD agent, but when she broke away, she was a very morally gray character where she'd sometimes be an antagonist and sometimes be a helper. And then in recent years, they've made her Madame Hydra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't think they're going to bring Hydra back.
Well, if she was a SHIELD agent, in this universe, SHIELD and Hydra basically became one and the same at some point. So, like, inspiration from both could easily happen. Where it's like maybe she was one of the higher-ups in Hydra when it was hiding inside SHIELD.
I was going to say, just in my, like, for me, with First Avenger beating Hydra, they're still here, Winter Soldier beating Hydra. It's like if they come back again, like I know that's what happens in comics all the time, but what LeighErin said with the Leviathans, I think that would make more sense, especially because that has ties to Russia, which is where Black Widow is set, she's
going to be appearing probably. In there. Yeah.
So I think that's what it's leaning towards.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Also, fun fact, in the comics, her and Sharon Carter hate each other because Val constantly hits on Steve Rogers while he is dating Sharon Carter, and Sharon Carter gets very annoyed by it.
I love that.
Yeah, because they're both on SHIELD has an all-female team in the comics called the Femme Force, and her and Sharon Carter were on the team at one point. The Levanthians also tie into Power Broker Incorporated in the comics. That's a whole thing. I agree with you, Brett, that I think Hydra is over, and we're either going to get, as much as I don't want to get it, we're either going to get Raid or we're going to get Labyrinthians.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if Zemo hunted that dude down in Cleveland, like,
yeah,
that's like, if that guy got caught, like, in Cleveland, like,
yeah,
not too many out there.
You think it's possible that she's the power broker?
Maybe.
It
wouldn't surprise me if they made her character the power broker, just because she kind of is that, like, weird kind of like everything's for me mobster type person.
And she had a line that implied that she could help John get what he wants.
What was a line she said about, like, the serum? Like, people are interested in you or something like that?
I don't know.
Because
yeah.
And this is interesting too, because, like, the power broker I thought was going to be a bigger deal in the show. Now, granted, Sharon Carter could still be the power broker. We don't know yet, but, like, the power broker, Fontaine, and Sharon Carter all are in this, like, nebulous, like, underworld aspect, right, as of this moment. And I'm not sure where they all shake out, because we don't know what the MCU's version of Fontaine's going to be precisely. And yeah, Sharon Carter calling up Batroc the Leaper. I was like, what?
That's the
Dude,
thing. This week almost solidified my theory that I think she's either the power broker or working for them, maybe not by her own accord, but just kind of got stuck having to do a favor. But it's like, you see her on the phone, this guy's yelling at her in French. She had a satellite for some reason last episode, and now Batroc shows up with all these weapons that is heavily implied he got from an arms dealer.
Okay, quick question, and I didn't look this up beforehand. I probably should have, but in the beginning of Winter Soldier, when Batroc and his crew are attacking the ship, didn't Nick Fury hire them to make action for Black Widow to get the information about S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I thought that he just gets blamed for that, and that the other guy who's
it was Hydra who hired them, but
no, Hydra didn't hire them because Hydra had sensitive information in there, and they had Hydra agents on that ship.
But that's what I'm saying. It was all a setup. Some of the hostages were members of S.H.I.E.L.D. who were actually Hydra.
Right.
I think
because you're right. It's either Nick did it or Hydra blamed
Nick for it.
I think it's that Alexander Pierce did it and blamed.
But why would he hire them against his own Hydra agents?
Because Alexander Pierce is psychotic.
Because it was a setup. That nobody, I think, was actually going to get hurt.
I think the other thing too is that I don't think Alexander Pierce knew that Natasha would dump all of the files, because it's heavily implied that they have dirt on S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, not just the ones that are secretly Hydra. They have some serious dirt on S.H.I.E.L.D.
Natasha herself, all her stuff on hers in those files.
Yeah. It's just all online now. That I think Alexander Pierce never thought they'd dump the files because they'd want to protect themselves. In my brain.
Yeah.
What I did like, though, that she brought up is, technically that S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't the government's.
No.
Because Howard Stark made it, right? Or he...
Well, no, it's a different S.H.I.E.L.D. than the one the government had.
You're right.
It's from the different timeline, and we don't really know where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Did Steve forge it himself? Who knows?
Is it from Wakanda? Like, where is it from? And I was like, oh yeah, that is a legal gray area, because even before that, he ditches the one that the government gave him in Civil War when Tony says, that was my dad, to give it back. And that fight scene in one of the most immature moments Tony Stark has in the MCU.
But he gives it back.
Cap throws it on the ground.
I'm saying Tony gives it back in Endgame. In Endgame, it's the same shield, because Tony pulls up in the car and goes, I need to give you this before Morgan starts to use it as a sled.
Yes. So Tony's fixed it. So yeah, technically that one's Stark property, or whoever it is, because realistically the idea would be you would think he would have gotten it from the 70s when they went to put the stone back, when Howard and Tony have that like cute moment.
No, Steve had the shield the second Tony showed up to the Avengers campus.
No, I mean when he goes back in time at the end.
Oh. Yeah, they never really showed what he does with his original shield, which obviously it's in a different timeline now. It doesn't matter.
It got broken, right? So
yeah. Thanos was able to wreck through that shit.
Did they ever fix it? No one really knows.
Yeah. So that's why I don't think it's government property anymore.
But that was another incredible comparison between Steve and John was because Captain America isn't the shield, and when Tony was like, "That's not yours," he's like, "Yeah, I don't need it. Like that. This doesn't make me Captain America."
It's very much the Spider-Man thing. Like if all you are is the suit, then you don't deserve it.
Yeah, and then John's insistence in that fight of like having ownership of the shield, always fighting for it in the battle, like that was just another out of 1,000.
And that's what made him snap. Is they said, "Give us the shield," not literally give us the shield. They were like, "Drop your weapon, like just hand it over." And he was like, "Oh, is that what this is about?"
Because they were talking him down. Because that's the thing is like he did realize he messed up.
And then the second they threatened to take the shield out of his hands, not even in like a weird
his identity of Captain America, he was like, no. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, go ahead, LeighErin.
Fine, I have two last things to say on Valentina Fontaine. One is dumb. One is I remembered the serum thing now that Brett was talking about. I have a feeling that John Walker's about to get fucked because when she said, "You did the right thing taking that serum," of course I know about that, and I'll tell you something. It's made you very, very valuable to certain people. All of Carly's people are super soldiers.
Yeah.
So either the power broker wants Walker to drop him and send her after because he's the only one who could really handle it, or they're going to do to him what they did to Isaiah Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, John Walker's going to have a rough episode next week.
Yeah.
I think next week it's going to be a 3-way battle between the Flag Smashers, Sam and Bucky. And
definitely.
John Walker.
It's definitely going to be. Yeah. And I'm excited for that.
The stupid thing is, before she defects from S.H.I.E.L.D., Val and Fury fuck for like a long time.
Yeah, they
like when she defects. Yeah. Like it really hurts him when she defects.
But
go ahead.
Oh, Fury's like off on some spaceship though, right?
I know. I just want to see them together, and then it'd be like, what is the animosity here? And then later on, Fury has to be like,
which Fury does she sleep with, senior or junior? Because like I looked her up, when I was trying to verify that it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus and I wasn't just seeing shit. I looked up who played her, and I got the actress who played her in like the '90s David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie. And those in the comics are two separate characters now that are like a clone of one another or something like that.
Fun fact about Val Fontaine: she hasn't been in the comics in a long time.
Okay.
It's probably been a good 20 years. Or not 20 years. It's probably been a good 10 years. But if I remember correctly, she is with like the Samuel L. Jackson.
The Ultimates Fury.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, Levinthian is hinted at in Agent Carter, so it really would not surprise me if we get Levinthians. Just because it's been hinted at so much, but nothing's been done with it. And like, you know, how many times can you go back to Hydra before like audiences are like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of talking about it too.
Yeah.
Like, if they come back again, it's like, okay, what is it like? Because they did it so well in Winter Soldier. Like a third time would be tough to pull off. But yeah. So you guys want to talk about that Isaiah Bradley scene?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Zemo first?
Oh yeah. Zemo's
sure. Yeah, we can talk about Zemo.
I just love him. I think he is the best written, best developed villain in the MCU. Every time, like, he's the only villain that I'm like, oh, buddy.
I really like how nothing he ever says means anything outside of that moment in a way, where it's like he has his principles, but he also knows when to say different things. Because last episode, he was just like, oh, power makes people bad, blah, blah, blah. And then Bucky and Sam are like, but it didn't happen to Steve. And he even goes, okay, you're right. Like, he concedes his own point. He goes, but there's not much men. And then in this episode, he tries to paint it to Bucky that Steve was incredibly violent just to see if he could pull Bucky forward and try to, kill him.
also that like Zemo, regardless of who it was, Zemo doesn't like super soldiers. Where I think to Zemo, there's an extent of, I mean, like we said at the beginning of this episode, Cap did kill people. Maybe not like John Walker, but like he's got blood on his hands. And Bucky likes to pretend that that's not true.
Yeah.
Sam likes to pretend that that's not true. And so I think sometimes Zemo is like, come on, like,
and I'm not saying
you have to see the world.
I'm not saying that he's completely wrong or right. I'm just saying he knows, like, in that moment, it felt very like you're just saying this to be manipulative, not because it's something that you mean as much as last week. And I feel like you could see that a little bit in his voice.
In a lot of this week's episode with Zemo, I just kind of was like, you're valid in a lot of these opinions. I mean, look what has happened because people are chasing the super soldier serum throughout time. And when he's like, Carly's radicalized beyond salvation, she is. That may not be the answer Bucky and Sam want to hear, but she is.
It's more the answer Sam doesn't want to hear.
Yeah, and that sucks. And I'm sorry that that's what it is. But it's a fact. Some people are just too far gone. And the only thing they can do is sit in prison. Just because you see some of yourself in them or you're afraid of becoming the bad guy doesn't change that. And so, you know, it's just kind of like, sometimes I'm like, you know, Zemo's not wrong. Also, him going with the Doromaji and him just knowing they're there and going, ladies. Oh, it's very funny.
That was so funny. Yeah.
He knows. Yeah. He knows, like...
Zemo knows how to take an L. And it's like, okay, respect.
I also... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what was his comment about, like he forgave Bucky? I didn't understand fully what that meant, because on the flip side, Bucky choosing not to kill Zemo, I felt like was growth of his character, and Sam touches on this later of like, you need to stop avenging and start amending and actually healing people you've wronged.
Oh, you're getting cut off.
It's because... Ooh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
I think with Zemo, that was part of it, is that Bucky put Zemo's name in his book. And I think Zemo knew, because I don't think Zemo is good or bad. I think he has a moral compass that he's very structured in and that he believes in. And in that brain, before we had, like, none of this started before we had superheroes. None of this happened before we had superheroes to the general public. Like, because, you know, the general public doesn't know all the nitty gritty of every single thing that happened.
Yeah.
And then his entire family died because of it. And, like, I get that aspect of it. And I think he knows, too, that Bucky will spend the rest of his life beating himself up. And it was kind of this, like, tit for tat where Bucky didn't kill him. Bucky didn't go with the Winter Soldier impulse. Bucky followed rule number 2. And Zemo absolved him. Forgiveness is very rarely, I have found, is very rarely about the person giving forgiveness. Like, apologies are very rarely about, like, the person you're apologizing to. They're usually about you. And I think in that moment, Zemo was like, I'm closing the book on this. Like, this is ending. This is over. I killed some Winter Soldiers. You're going to do your thing, and I'm going to go to the raft and,
yeah,
you know, do my thing.
It just seems like, of all in that relationship, Bucky and Zemo is not the one that should be, you know, saying, I forgive you to Bucky.
That's perspective.
I guess, but, like...
Because Bucky feels that some of his actions directly led to Zemo's family dying. Because it's all this, like, weird ripple. Because in theory, everything Tony Stark does, you could blame on Bucky. If Howard hadn't died when Bucky killed him, Tony and Howard probably would have resolved their issues as Tony got older and, like, graduated. So Tony never would have had all of those issues. If Howard hadn't died, Obadiah Stane never would have happened. If Obadiah Stane never happened, like, it's just this huge ripple
yeah,
effect
then everything them
of the other Iron Man movies yeah, the other Iron movies wouldn't have happened. So Avengers wouldn't have happened. So Tony wouldn't have PTSD about having to protect the world and give up his life to protect the world. And then
creating Ultron.
So he never would have created Ultron. And, you know, like, if he had never created Ultron, Zemo's family never would have died. And, like, it's a long road, but I see where Bucky could have that logic that Tony is his fault. And Zemo's family's death is his fault.
Yeah.
I can see it.
That's quite a butterfly effect for you to be, like, taking on your own. I get it. No, I follow your logic. Like, I'm just saying, like, as a person, just like... Well,
Buck needs therapy, all right?
And, okay, let's pivot to that. Sam's counseling experience came in handy with Bucky, where he's like, you need to start putting in the work. And it's tough love, and I like their thing of, like, co-workers, friends, mutual friends. It's just like, you guys are...
He was a better therapist than that lady was.
I thought Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the therapist for a minute. When we just heard the shield, I thought it was the therapist, and she was going to be like, fuck, Bucky, I'm on your side, man, let's go. And I was like, ooh.
No, when she was coming down, when she was coming down, I thought it was about to be a therapist. It's like, we need to talk. I'm like, is she coming back or what?
But that was all I had to say on Zemo. We can talk about Isaiah now.
Yeah.
Just because that scene was... Oh, God.
Yeah, that was, like, and obviously, like, my perspective is not, like the most accurate perspective for this topic of discussion, but just from my personal point of view, like, they both were right in that scene. Like, and even Sam's echoes that, where Isaiah Bradley clearly has the right to be jaded and pissed and bitter about what happened to him and what he thinks can be done in terms of making America more equal and bringing justice and resolving, you know, the 500 years of, you know, injustice. Whereas Sam says, like, okay, just because that happened doesn't mean we should give up. Like, you still you should fight for equality. You can continue to fight no matter what. And I thought that scene, especially paralleling it with Bucky and Sam later, and not only Sam telling Bucky that he needs to do the work with therapy and amending, but also Sam almost kind of choosing to take up the mantle there at the end when he's starting to do the training with the shields.
I have one point that has nothing to do with the scene. It was just, again, a technical thing, and then I'm going to go into the scene thing, because all of my thoughts on it kind of go together, like they feed into each other. Why are you watering your plants in the dark? I know that, like, you have to give actors activities, because if they're just standing there, it's boring to look at, and the actors usually get bored and stop acting. So you have, like, that's a whole thing when you're learning to direct, that they're like, you have to give them something to do with their hands to make them look...
That's why coffee cups are such a thing.
Normal. Yeah, like, just anything so that they're not just standing there like, I am, like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Acting mode activated.
Yeah, like, you just get weird performances when they're just standing there. But why? Like, you could have given him anything else to do. You could have put him on the porch whittling, for all I fucking care. But why are you watering your plants in the dark?
Honestly, I had a grandfather that would just do activities at the wrong time of day, so I'm like, I get this. It's an old person thing.
Oh my God. What were you gonna say, Brad?
Oh, I was gonna make a joke about how he's technically dead, so, like, he can't do, like, he doesn't want to go outside maybe during like.
Fair.
But, which I never thought about that when he was in episode 3, 2.
2. It was 2.
But it was 2. Okay, but having, like, I was like in the MCU, did they just, like, let him go after 30 years? Like, all right, bye, you're free now. But, like, it makes sense that, like, he had to, like, escape almost from what they were doing to him.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm gonna rant for a second. And I'm gonna premise this rant with I fucking love World War II, and so I know far too much about it. It has always bothered me in the first Captain and Winter Soldier, or the first Captain America movie in Captain America: The First Avenger, that the Howling Commando were integrated and we were all supposed to pretend that that was okay and like that was real, because it's not. Troops were still segregated in World War II. It's the major thing with the Tuskegee Airmen, which Isaiah refers to, talking about the 332 and the Red Tails. Those were just other names for the Tuskegee Airmen. They were their own... What?
Weren't they integrated at some point during World War II? Or, like, just...
Certain troops were, but it was, like, touchy because you were taking, like, a risk that you were about to put, like, a group of people of color in a room with a bunch of racists. So, like, and a lot of the white men did not want black troops near them. And were like, they're not going to be helpful. They're stupid. I'm just going to have to be watching their backs. Like, lots of stupid racist shit from the 1940s.
And if I'm remembering correctly, each branch, like Navy, Air Force, military, Marines, they each integrated at their own pace in a way. They did not all go at the same time.
Yeah, they did. It was a very slow thing because the way the armed forces works is kind of like each branch gets to make their own decisions to an extent. They're like one, but very separate. It's very weird. But, and yeah, and Isaiah's right when he says the Tuskegee Airmen went and fought, and some of them died, and some of them didn't come back, and some of them made sacrifices that meant that they deserved a Purple Heart. And they came home, and the U.S. government was like, bye, like, suck, we're not helping you, like, we're not giving you Purple Hearts, you're gonna go back to this world where you're not gonna receive benefits. And it took years. Like, it was the early to, like, mid-early, like, 2007 era when some of those men got Purple Hearts and their family got benefits. Which is crazy, because that's, like, 60 years later. And the fact that Isaiah, his fellow soldiers, his unit, his friends, were captured, and he went after them to save them. And he was thrown in prison and tortured for 30 years, and his wife never got to see him again. And died thinking that he was dead. But Cap actively defied orders and ran off to save the Howling Commando, and he was fucking given a exhibit in the Smithsonian. Like, you have to accept at a certain point. I'm not saying that Steve Rogers was a racist or that Steve Rogers was bad, but he worked for a racist government. This is still an issue in 2021, and you can't look at somebody and not realize that he is a white, blonde-hair, blue-eyed guy from Brooklyn. Of course he was given things that these men were never given. And it's not an insult to Steve. It's just a fact. Sam has got to stop taking this all so personally. It's not his fault. It's not Isaiah's fault. It's not Steve Rogers' fault. It's the American government. Be mad at the American government. Don't be mad at these people who are telling you that Steve supported a racist government, because he did. And just because Marvel painted in the first Avengers that race wasn't an issue and that was all fine, doesn't mean that that's fact. And, like, not for nothing, after the week we have had, like, in current events, watching this episode was really hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked up that, like, this is still something we're dealing with. And, like, I mean, the episode's named after him. Truth, Red, White, and Blue was the comic that Isaiah Bradley got revealed in, and that whole story got revealed in. And I get where they're going. I almost wish they had gone further. But what I will say, and Isaiah is also incredibly correct, that America will never fully accept a black Captain America. It won't happen. Look at what happened when we had a black president. Yeah. Like, and look how long that took. And look what a big deal it is that we have a vice president currently who's of mixed race. Even if Vice President Harris was a man, people would still have issue with her race.
Yeah.
His race in this theory. And that's part of it. And if that's part of your hesitation, that's okay, but you have to address it. Like, in the same vein that he's saying to Bucky, you have to address all of that weight. And I'm not telling Sam how to deal with 500 years of racism. I'm not a person of color. I would never tell you how to deal with it. But you can separate that from Steve. And Steve can still be who you knew while everything else is true. And you can very clearly tell from this scene that they have Black writers. Like,
yeah,
they have to have a very diverse writing room because this scene was handled so well and there was such nuance and such beauty. I just hope next week when Falcon becomes Cap, it doesn't turn into Isaiah is wrong for everything he said. I really hope they stick with it. They both have valid points.
Yeah. I definitely see that they both have valid points. I have like, I look at it with like, both of these men found ways to kind of survive / deal with the unfortunate truth about what Black people in this country have to deal with. And like, it's never, this is what I'm about to say is not 100%, but I see some parallels like with my own family that's like immigrated here, and like some of the younger ones. It's just like people react to these circumstances and being in somebody that's an other very differently, and a lot of it is shaped by your experiences. So like, yeah. I get where Isaiah's coming from, but I also get why Sam is holding on to this. Like, if deep inside, if he knows it's a lie, I get why he's holding on to it. And then you had in the first episode Rhodey telling him, it's like, do you know what that would have meant for others had you taken it? Sure, other people would have been pissed off, but do you know what that would have meant for others? And I think we see, you know, we have a scene later where Bucky wakes up and the kids are playing with, Sam's nephews are playing with the shield, which we'll get to that in a second, but
the whole scene in New Orleans was so pure.
Even two Black kids in this country still know what the shield can mean, or like still meant something to them. Now imagine if it was actually being held by an African American. And this isn't a new discussion, actually, because I just remembered this today. In Civil War II, funny enough, at Rhodey's, spoilers for Civil War II, which came out like 5 years ago and is not that good.
It's forever.
Yeah. Oh wait, do you plan on reading it?
Civil War II, like
the comic event.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No, not the movie.
I was like, you said not that good. I'm like, what?
No, Civil War II, the comic event.
Yeah, this one, I had it.
Yeah, I bought a bunch. Anyway, no, not that one.
Is this not Civil War II? Can I not read?
That's the original.
Oh, this is the first one. I didn't know I had that.
Yeah. Anyway, Rhodey dies in the beginning of Civil War II, and that right before his funeral happens, he was given the mantle of Cap again, because it's happened multiple times at this point. And there's a part where all the Black superheroes in Marvel, Storm's there, T'Challa's there. I just don't remember the panel in my head right now to remember more, because there was a bunch and I'm just blanking because I'm just seeing a sea of people. But they're all saying like, because I think they wanted Sam to be the person to say a eulogy, and they're like, you have a big responsibility now and people are not going to be happy. So like, this isn't a new conversation of what if there was a Black Captain America.
And well, I'm gonna jump ahead here out of order in terms of like the episode, but when which by the way, yeah, the whole New Orleans scene, but the conversation between Bucky and Sam when they were like kind of like throwing the shield back to each other via the tree, like Sam was like, yo, Cap, like he was telling Bucky to like make amends and deal with his trauma, like, and deal with like everything his own way and not do it Steve's way, like, because he referenced the book. And just that whole conversation about like kind of going off of what you said, LeighErin, about between Isaiah and Sam, of like Steve like didn't get everything right, and he like isn't like, I mean, in a lot of ways he is like that emblematic like paragon of like virtue and like doing the things the right way and all that, but at the same time, like, he didn't do everything right all the time, and like you shouldn't look up to him for everything. And so I thought that was super well done, because it's talking about that character Steve Rogers in a way that is realistic and but still honors like what that could, like what he could mean, and like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, we talked about this a little last week where we were talking about or I was saying specifically that I really like that we're starting to break down Steve the God and realize that Steve is not divine. Like, he's a human. He makes mistakes, and that's okay. And you just, take that realization as you come.
He did the best he could.
Yeah. And, like, do I agree with every decision Steve ever made? No. But he made them, and he stuck by his guns, and so, and he didn't murder someone in the street. So, that I had to watch. He could have. I don't know. But
generally speaking, like, Steve's mistakes are not, horrendous evil acts is the thing, but he was still allowed to make mistakes. I'm talking very generally.
No, I'm about to say something different. Steve told Bucky he was going to give Falcon the shield before he died, but didn't tell Sam.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why, if you go back and watch the scene in Endgame, Bucky goes, like, don't, like, Steve says, don't do anything stupid, and then Bucky's just like, I'm going to miss you, and it's like, he's going to be gone for 5 seconds. Like, Bucky knew.
Yeah.
But you couldn't have warned Sam instead of just dumping it on him and being like, I will keep my secret.
That's what they talk about in this episode is Bucky's like, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't realize what
that might have meant
for you.
I know, I literally wrote,
Sorry, just shoving this mantle on you without consulting you first.
I literally wrote, I was like, yeah, no doy. Because you're 2 white guys.
Yeah. And I also...
How did neither of you process that this was going to be different?
And I also think that, Bucky was like, who am I to spoil this, for lack of a better word, surprise that Steve wants to do? I know the plan. I'm going to let it play out the way he wants it to. And yeah, I don't think anyone's necessarily surprised that 2 men from the 40s took a step back and went, well, what's the bigger picture here? Because the other thing is, they didn't do an act that was... Like, they did not do something to Sam that was like an ignorant comment or something that, like, they didn't pay attention to. You're looking at the way bigger picture of what does it mean for him to hold that shield. So yeah, but of course that didn't cross their minds, and like, I wouldn't expect it to.
How? I'm just saying how. Steve, I don't care. Steve has been out of the ice long enough that, like, somewhere in one of their brains they should have gone, this could be a problem. Sam may not want this, being the first one. Sam may not want to be Cap, and that is valid, being the first one. The second one being, you are both white men. Your experience is vastly different. I don't give a shit that you lived in the 40s. You lived in the 40s. You should know that your experience is going to be vastly different. Whether that is good, bad, or otherwise, at this point, because America sucks, it is just a fact that it's going to be a different experience.
It goes into that thing of, like, it actually hurts to be colorblind sometimes, where you have to realize the different walks of life that people go through.
Yeah.
He just might want it.
It's like, dude, I like the wings. I don't want to give them up. Sorry, Brett, go ahead.
I'm over Brett.
Oh no, I would say I can't remember the term right now, but just that inherent ignorance of, like, they just didn't even think about it. So Steve obviously meant it as a well-intentioned, make good, but it meant something entirely different to Sam. And so it's just, he just was ignorant about it, but he wasn't coming from a bad place. It's just he's a white guy, so he just didn't think about it.
Yeah. Can I jump back really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
To something completely unconnected before I really want to talk about New Orleans. Have Lamar's parents seen the news? Like, why are they still down with John Walker? They're being very nice to him.
Because he goes, I did it because that was the man who killed your son.
But he's not!
We know that, but they have... The thing is...
Let me say this, though.
He's sticking by that was the guy who did it, and I don't know why.
In today's day and age, there's so much information out there that... Like, I totally buy that his parents, especially in this moment where they're in a state of shock and grief, that they're not like... Oh, it was Carly Morgenthau. Oh, and she ran that way in this newscast, and so I totally buy that.
But
I'd still be freaked out. I'd still be a little freaked out.
That's the thing, is that the public, I think, does legitimately believe that the guy that John Walker killed is who killed Lamar, because the cameras weren't out there till after, and no one went, by the way, it was Carly. Like, I don't know why Sam and Bucky haven't yet. It's like, go to the news, guys, but
But
he doubled down on it twice. He doubled down on it when Sam and Bucky confronted him, and he doubled down on it in front of Lamar's parents and said, "That is the man who killed your son, and I wouldn't have hesitated to do that."
So I think, but in the U.S. government tribunal, he didn't.
They don't mention it either way.
They knew. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, with the Bucky and Sam fight, that I'm not trying to I'm just saying he was in that state of shock. So, sometimes but then with the parents, he purposely lied because he didn't want to let them down because they were so depressed and sad.
Jordan, I love you so much. Both of my parents love you so much. You know this. If I died and you killed a man on national television, my father and mother would be a little hesitant to let you in the house.
Even if it was the right person.
Yeah, because that's wild. You murdered a man in a way that we were not allowed to see on television.
Nope.
Also, I truly don't understand why John Walker is doubling down on it, and I wouldn't care if it wasn't for they showed in the previously on Carly kick him, John Walker watch it happen, Carly run, and John go after the guy because that's just who he could get. I'm like, you know who did it.
Yeah, it's like, what is
your it wasn't this dude.
What's your end goal here? If anything, if anything, and I'm not saying I want to do this, just make your thing, I'm going after Carly now. But
that's
not.
What he's doing.
Well,
that's what he
is. That's now the plan now.
But
he's going to get Carly and he's going to get Sam.
But it's just that classic human thing of you make a lie and then you just buy into it, right? It's what George Costanza said, right? It's not a lie if you believe it. So he's in it, the way he's dealing with him not only failing as Captain America but failing his friend, and then committing this act of atrocity, as he's like, I did it, I got the right person in this specific scenario.
I think he also wants people on his side, and he knows that if he goes, that wasn't the right guy, it's gonna cost him people. So he's just like, I need to feed the lie so I have some support to get to the real person.
Everybody take a deep breath. And why are you lying?
To quote Bobby Moynihan, John Walker's a punk bitch.
But okay, so New Orleans.
Oh,
and I'm going to preface this with, I am a sucker for the community come together, and it's because my mother is from a tiny, tiny town in upstate New York, and my grandmother started the auxiliary with the fire department. My grandmother was one of those people that she took in strays and fed people, and I'm such a sucker for these stories, especially when old people are involved. When old people are like, this family calls and we come to help, I'm like, this is so cute. It's so pure.
They finally, and part of it was the family ties with their parents, but in some of the phone calls that you heard in that, audio montage was like, oh yeah, the Falcons, they finally, you're the fucking Falcon.
It's like if a kid
why don't you flex that for having the community help you? And they finally did that.
Yeah, no.
Along with what his parents did for their community.
They look at Sam kind of as imagine if one of the kids you went to high school with, who was a wholesome kid, made it to the NFL because he was that good at football. That's how they look at it. It's just some dude from our small hometown got there. Yay.
Love old people.
So yeah, seeing the community together was just heartwarming. And then the reveal of Bucky coming to help too was,
I know.
I loved it. They're like, how the hell are we going to get this thing off?
And then he just moves.
If I do not get payoff to Bucky and Sarah flirting,
oh my God,
I swear to God,
okay,
I'm gonna lose it.
So I want the payoff for that to be the back end, to go back to the line where they're like, what are we, coworkers, mutual friends? Well, now you're brother-in-laws.
So I want to make an interesting point here. I was listening to this podcast today about it. So he was in Wakanda for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe him and Ayoo, I don't know, maybe that's just his thing. It was very interesting that he was flirting so hard with.
He didn't even
in front of Sam.
No, and she loved when he
was
Yeah, and then she just loved seeing him use a tool, because here's the thing. We have seen Sam use guns, use a whole assortment of weapons, kick ass. That man did not look comfortable holding a wrench. So the second Bucky comes in...
Bucky goes over and is like, you have to go up first. Yeah. And like...
By the way, my favorite line this episode is, why didn't you use the metal arm? I don't always think about it because I'm right-handed.
And I said this to Jordan earlier, but I really like it because they had released a mid-season trailer last week where it was the John Walker fight scene. You see Bucky hit someone, and then Sam goes, why didn't you use the vibranium hand? And he went, I don't always think of it. And so they very clearly just took it and dubbed it, which was super cool. But I really liked him being like, I don't know. Like,
it's like, because that's not actually part of him, he's always just naturally going to want to go with the right hand. Like, it makes sense, but it's fun. It was so funny.
Do you think Bucky still gets phantom pain? Even though he has a prosthetic and like has had it for a long time and it's like a high-tech prosthetic?
Probably.
I wouldn't be, so because it's comic book stuff and like the Wakandas have like crazy technology, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen. But also at the same time, I could totally, like, it wouldn't shock me. So either way, like,
no bearing on anything that's going on. I'm just curious.
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
Like,
I never thought about
what we really need as a Disney Plus show, the physiology of Bucky Barnes.
Well, it's like when we were doing WandaVision, in my brain, I'm like, just how do they have sex? I hate that Disney has made me curious about this, but I'm curious about the logistics.
All right. Mr. Feige, can I call you Kevin? 2 questions. Does Vision have a penis? Does Bucky still get phantom pain?
I'm just
very
curious.
simple.
I don't know.
I just need a yes and a no for each.
Just say you're friends, you dicks.
Yeah, it's like, bro,
just say you're friends.
You had one favor left with the Wakandans, and you used it to help Sam. You're friends. Just admit it.
You care about him. Just say it.
I do like that they're building towards that. Like, I feel like in the next episode they're gonna maybe not say, hey, we're friends now, but like they're gonna come, and they kind of already are, and they have been since not Winter Soldier, but Civil War. So like, and it's that real thing of like, they had the mutual friend, and now that mutual friend's not there anymore, so they still have similarities because obviously they both had the same friend, and now they're building that relationship together. Especially
that scene where they are throwing the shield back and forth. It, like, even though it's the shield, it played off like they were just playing a game of catch.
Yeah, like it could have been a baseball.
Yeah.
Glad that Carly's just working with actual terrorists now.
Yeah.
If you wanted to piss all over your message, like, here's how you do it, my man.
Yeah, she kind of like is fulfilling her own prophecy of like saying, hey, we're called criminals, so we might as well just give into it. It's just like, and this is what's so excellent about, I feel like, this show, honestly, of how Zemo is calling her out, that she is like a supremacist, she is radicalized, and initially she's not, but she gets led to that path, but not in the way that Zemo described it, but she is now in that path of honestly being a criminal, because she is working with other criminals. She like blew people up. Like, it's just so the writing of the show, I like some of the dialogue sometimes isn't the best, but I feel like the scenarios are pretty well constructed.
I love that Bryant Park in New York City is always made to be Central Park in movies. Central Park is huge.
Yeah.
And they are very clearly in the back section of Bryant Park.
Wait, did they say they were in Central Park?
No, but they pan up to the Empire State Building, and you can't see the Empire State Building from Bryant Park. You can see the Chrysler Building, but you can see the Empire State Building from one end of Central Park.
They just wanted to show you that they were in New York, because like, if they didn't, you would have thought they were just at a park in Europe.
That was the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, that was the Empire State Building.
Yeah, that wasn't the Chrysler Building.
Oh,
I confused them sometimes.
I think it was.
I'm pretty sure it was the.
I think it was the Chrysler.
Me and you should know this of all people, Aaron, but like, I'm pretty sure it was the Empire.
Jordan, wait, I think Brett's right.
because
we are both wrong.
Because that's the building that Kingpin is always in like the '90s animated show and like the video game. Yeah,
it's also the Empire State Building is blockier on top. The Chrysler Building is smooth with all those windows. Yep, it is Bryant Park. All right, there you go. They're in Bryant Park because Bryant Park's right by Grand Central Station, and you come out, walk into Bryant Park, and if you look up, it's the Chrysler Building.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's that green-topped building, and next to it, there's a building that I like literally goes like this, and it's the stupidest architecture I've ever seen. But it looks like a slide, and I'm like, what is the point of this? Anyways.
It was crazy how many people were signed up on that app. Were they there already and they were
there acting normal until she whistled?
Because I was like, like she activated the app and then like everyone pulled out their phone. They're like, yep, we're in. Like, I was like, damn.
Yeah, it was like going to Central Park in 2016, the week Pokemon Go came out.
Oh my god, that's been insane.
I thought she dropped something because with smartphones, there's the possibility that if anybody has anything like sharing open on their phones, you can drop major stuff to whoever's around. And so at first I thought she dropped something huge and there was going to be a big reveal. And then they all got up and started walking towards her. I was like, I don't like this.
And they're basically just going to blow up the UN?
They're probably going to kill the...
They're trying to, I think, they're like, we don't want to vote at all.
The GRC Council.
Yeah.
Did they say where that was?
In New York. That's why
I would
she's there.
assume then it was either the UN or the One World Trade Center then, yeah.
Oh, I don't know, again, which building specifically. I just assumed it would be happening in the UN because they have people from different... But what happened was we see the scene where she's with Batroc. Mm-hmm. And then we get the scene where Sam's watching the news talking about how they're about to do a vote tomorrow on like refugee settlements in New York. And then he gets the call from Torres saying that like the pings that were going all over Europe just happened in New York. And we get the scene where they shut off the lights right as they're about to vote.
The other reason I don't think Hydra is coming back is I think One World, One People is going to become the new
Hail Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think One World, One People is... I
feel like they're going to be taken care of in this. I don't think they're coming back after this. Regularly as Hydra, at least.
Yeah, I think Hydra is done.
No, I mean, like, I don't think the Flag Smashers are coming back as often as Hydra would.
I don't think the Flag Smashers are going to stay the Flag Smashers.
They might just, like, they might use the same phrase, but something's just going to evolve out of it.
I have a feeling that they are going to be folded into, again, either Levanthians or Raid.
Yeah.
Since that's Raid's, like, whole deal is radical ways for destruction is, like, their whole thing.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah. So.
But yeah, so next week we're tuning up for a 3-way fight where I think Sam's not going to try to protect Carly, but I think he's not going to want to kill her. I think he's just going to want her to face trial. And and then you're going to have John trying to, do episode 5 again, or episode 4 again on her. And then Sam's just trying to be like, I hate both of you right now.
Episode 4, 2 Electric Boogaloo.
2 heads are better than 1.
This is totally unrelated, but that Torres line when they were in that like Latvian broken down building, I can't remember what he said, but he was like, sometimes you just gotta wait or something, and I was like, yeah, like it totally made sense just to.
I think he said sometimes you have to wait till there's something to do.
Yeah, it was like, yeah,
and that was kind of the whole gist of this episode.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, in terms of like real progression of like real events, it's not like, because the movies are so condensed sometimes, it's not like Bucky and Sam immediately go to the next like huge plot point. They had to reset, and I just really appreciated that about this episode. And
the other thing is, other than Zemo, none of the other plot points got tied up yet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tie up the old Asian man whose name I'm trying to look up right now.
Oh, they definitely are, because that's what
he's
Sam
in New York.
said. Sam also said to Bucky, is there anyone in that book that you can give closure to? And Bucky knows the answer as to what happened to that man's son.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, he knows answers to what happened to all of these people.
No, but giving closure and actually healing.
That man doesn't have the closure. Other people might.
Yeah.
Yori, that's his name.
Yori. Yeah.
Yori.
And then Bucky's going to have to choose between Sarah and the sushi bartender.
Pick Sarah, my man. The sushi bartender was there for 30 seconds and you dipped out on her while playing Electronic Battleship, but not playing Electronic Battleship for no fucking reason. I'm just saying that you could have covered up the directions so that we couldn't see it was Electronic Battleship, or used the noises. Also, if you watch it, the board is set up crazy. Because, like, not all Bucky's ships are on the board. Bucky's, like, hit thing up top doesn't match hers. Like, it's just set up wild. And Bucky goes, "Oh, you got another hit." And it's like, or she goes E8, and Bucky goes, "Oh, you got another hit." She got a hit on B8, C8, D8. It's a pretty good call if she hasn't sunk your ship yet that the next one is E8 and then F8. Like, that's not impressive. So, I just hate that scene. Just cover it up.
So, I don't remember us talking about that in that episode. Were you harboring these thoughts this whole time?
Yeah, this came out of nowhere.
Okay. The first episode, I think there were 4 or 5 of us, and I was like, this is a stupid thing, and I'm trying not to do what I did with WandaVision, where I just bring up these random shit that only bothers me.
I love that.
Where did you find the time to notice? I'm just like, all right, they're playing Battleship. I don't need any more context. Like,
well, because there's an overhead shot. I can give you exactly why I noticed this stuff. Because I went to school for theater and film. And, like, we used to have to watch TV and write papers on, like, continuity stuff and all that kind of stuff because it's really important when you're learning how to direct. And so there's this overhead shot, and Bucky's arm is sitting, and the directions are very clearly out and very clearly say Electronic Battleship. And I don't like Electronic Battleship because it's got really annoying noises.
So maybe playing with the sound off.
But so then I just didn't care about the conversation they were having. Like, I just wasn't really all that bothered by it until her one line about how there's not a word for a parent that loses a child.
Yeah.
But the entire lead up to that, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at the board because continuity shit like that drives me crazy.
Yeah, just
I didn't want to bring it up because it was like the pilot and so much other important shit happened that I was like, if I bring up this battleship thing.
It's like, how hard would it have been for, like, you know, the director to be like, find me 2 interns and have them play a game of Battleship properly, like, halfway through, just make sure one ship's in this area?
Or just, hey, Sebastian, can you move your arm up, like, maybe 2 inches just to cover the electronic, or move the rules down just to cover the electronic because I don't want to use the sounds.
It would have messed with his core circulation.
Sound mixing.
It would have messed with his core circulation.
I just pull the rules down, just so your arm covers it. People do it all the time. We use it to cover up brands and shots all the time, as you put someone's arm on it.
I noticed that today, that, like, this was, like, the one time that, like, somebody was holding, like, in television, like, a beer bottle where you were like, oh, that's a fucking Heineken. Like, you guys can't. Because usually, like, they make a fake label, they strip a label off of it.
Bucky can't get drunk, right? I think we talked about that in episode 1.
But they were just enjoying a cold beer after a day of work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like enjoying a cold beer after a day of work, the joy is that it, like, takes the edge off a little bit because of the alcohol.
But even if you can't get drunk, like, what's one fucking beer gonna do to you?
I think they still can get drunk, because was it in Ultron when they have the Asgardian whiskey
Ale.
or whatever? Ale, yeah. Like,
yeah.
But Steve drinks it because his body metabolizes alcohol too fast.
But because it literally knocked out Stan Lee in that scene,
Wow.
but like, so I imagine it gets
that's the one that's strong enough to catch up to Super Soldier.
Yeah.
Do you think the Watchers are mad at Stan Lee's character for going, I'm gonna drink Asgardian ale? I know I shouldn't, but I'm gonna drink this and getting fucking knocked.
Especially
like, how much
like,
did you miss because you decided to drink this?
Could you have prevented Ultron had you not drank?
This is why I'm the worst person, is because I see this shit and my brain hyperfixates on it. And I'm like, I want an answer to this stupid question.
That's the real one if we need to get. Just the Watchers scolding Stan Lee.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
We know why Zemo's going to the raft, because of the Thunderbolts, probably, whenever that happens. But like, in universe, why would the Wakandans take him?
Yeah, I found that to be an interesting choice too.
and not to like some deep dank Wakandan prison.
That maybe Wakanda might feel like they don't have a strong enough prison to hold him, or that they don't want the risk of another breakout happening, and breaking out of the raft is so hard because it's in the middle of the ocean. It's like Alcatraz. Where the fuck are we gonna go?
Is the raft not controlled by the Americans? Because like this is a Sokovian who is angered the Wakandans. Why put him in an American prison?
It has to be some sort of like NATO, like
maybe he's they might consider him smart enough to be considered a superpowered human. Because I mean they put Clinton there.
They put the collar on him and he like loses his accent. He hates Turkish delights. Like
just becomes a fucking moron.
They put Sam in there too. Like
yeah.
I think it's
Hawkeye.
Yeah. Like Wanda, I get throwing in there. Like she's.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But, I think it's just that like it's either a shield thing, or it's really hard to escape when you're in a prison in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up to see who owns it because I'm curious.
Unless you're Cap and somehow.
Oh, it's not. It's control. Okay. They're bringing him to the raft because it's specifically for people with abilities. It's like a UN-run prison. Yeah, that's why they bring him there. It's like it's supposed to hold really dangerous.
He's considered enough of a manipulator that he has a special ability to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a super threat.
Because that's
a thing.
Hey, you go hang out with Trish Walker.
God, I hated that plot line.
I hate Trish Walker, so I mean,
I hate MCU Trish Walker.
Do you know anything about comics Trish Walker?
No, but she seems a bit cooler.
No, she's fucking annoying.
Okay, annoying is different than like what, whatever. We're not getting to a Jessica Jones discussion now. But so next week we need to wrap up Sam's relationship with the Shield, who Bucky's gonna end up with, and what he's gonna say to Yori. Carly's whole thing with the GRC vote, is that what they're called?
GRC, yeah.
GRC vote, and then we have to see what John's end goal actually is, what he's up to, and how Fontaine plays into it, what you could do to him. Personally, I think Fontaine might be Mephisto.
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
All right, everybody. That wraps up today's episode. We will see you next week. Everyone's socials will be in the description down below. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time for the finale. Bye.